Hello and welcome to the 7th episode of our Wild in the Wetland live stream, our 2025 live stream series. My name is Rachel and I am a watershed health educator here at the Environmental Learning Center on Clackamas Community College's campus here in Oregon City. I'm so glad that you could join me today. It's a beautiful but cloudy day here in the wetland. We've got lots of ducks floating around here, making noises and splashing around in the water. And it's a perfect time because we are actually going to be talking all about mallards today. And I'm so glad that you could join me. Today we will be talking about the mallards, but also about how the wetland provides habitat for this common and very beautiful bird. And in front of you, you may have an activity sheet just like this. And up at the top, it's got the title of our episode, Duck, Duck, No Goose. And the first activity is called the Mallard Memory Game. And it says, while watching the live stream, how many objects can you remember from the Mallard Memory Game? Write or draw them here. And we're going to do this game together, so you don't have to worry about this part right now. And then the next activity below says, label 5 adaptations on a duck's body that help them live in and around wetlands. And they've got a picture of a mallard and a mallard duckling. And then finally, we have our community connections, because at the end of each episode, we want you to be able to take what you learn here today and take it out into your own community. And it says, why are wetlands important to birds like mallards? And then you'll be able to answer that question by the end of the episode. So like I said, we're talking all about mallards, and mallards here in the wetland are very well established, and they have lots of great resources around. So in a habitat, that's an area where an animal finds all of the things it needs to live. So that means food, water, shelter, enough space, and a place to raise their young. And here in the wetland, mallards are able to have all of those things here in the wetland. There's plenty of plants and insects for mallards to eat. There's water for them to drink and to swim around in. And these plants can even provide space for them to raise their young. And they build their nests in there. The wetland is really a great place for mallards to live and grow. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, is about mallards and what makes them so unique. And these unique features that they have are called adaptations. And an adaptation is a physical feature or a behavior or something that they do that allows them to survive and thrive in an area. So, like I said, a physical adaptation is something that is on the animal's body that helps them to survive, while a behavioral adaptation is a behavior or a thing that they do or a way that they act that helps them to survive. Now, with that in mind, we are going to play the Mallard Memory Game. And what I'm going to do is I have some objects here under this sheet, and the objects are all somehow related to mallards and their adaptations. Now, I'm going to pull this sheet back, and in 10 seconds, you're going to have 10 seconds to draw or write down the different objects that you see here. And then after 10 seconds, I'll cover it back up, and then we'll go over what all of those different objects are and how they're related to mallards. Are you ready? All right, I hope you're ready. Okay, so I'll pull it off and then we'll have 10 seconds. Okay, ready? Go. All right, that was about 10 seconds. So I hope you got all of your drawings and notes down. I know it was a short time, but I know you've got good eyes and fast hands, so you're able to write it all down. So what did you all see? What kind of objects? Let's take a look. We've got plenty of things here. The mallards, I can hear them. They're off splashing in the water behind me. So the first one that I wanted to take a look at is this whistle. And why would a mallard be related to a whistle? Mallards, they are able to communicate with each other through different calls, like quacking or even a whistling sound. And I'm hearing it right now, and I'm hoping that our audio equipment is able to catch that for you so you can hear. But they have a distinct whistle that they make, and that quacking that you often hear from mallards, the females are actually the ones making that quacking noise. Amazing, right? So this whistle helps us to remember that mallards have the ability to call to each other for different purposes. They can communicate through just regular quacking, maybe telling their friends and neighbors that they found food or whatever they need to say to each other. But they also have other calls that may be an alarm call to let them know that there's danger or that they need to move on to another area. It's a unique it's a unique adaptation, but it's not necessarily unique just to that creature, just to the mallard. Other creatures communicate, even people do. We're communicating right now. So the whistle helps us to remember that mallards communicate. Our next object is a toy car. We've got this here, you can see. Now, I've never seen a mallard driving a car, so what could this car be related to? Cars often can drive fast, but mallards too can fly really fast. You don't often see them flying super fast because sometimes here in the wetland, they're just floating around, swimming, not moving too quick. But when you see them flying up in the sky, they will often be going up to 55 miles per hour. That's pretty fast. That's actually as fast as a car goes on the highway. So next time you're in the car on the highway, think about how fast a mallard goes, just about the same as your car. So cool. Our next object is this rainbow. What could a rainbow be related to for a mallard? Well, this rainbow has lots of colors. It is very beautiful. And so that always makes me think of the mallard's feathers. They have beautiful feathers. And as you can see here on this male mallard mount, we've got some different colored feathers. We've got some brown ones, more on the body, some black ones, and white ones. But we also have this beautiful green and purple colored feathers on its head. So the rainbow reminds us that mallards have different colored feathers, and some of them are really beautiful. In the sunlight, their head will actually reflect that sunlight, and the colors will change between the purples and the greens and the blues even. So next time you see a male mallard out in the wetland, keep an eye out for their beautiful color-changing feathers. Let's see what our next object is. Ooh, what's this one? It's kind of hard to tell on the table here. It's actually a balloon. It's not blown up, it's just a balloon sitting here. And what would a balloon be related to for a mallard? They're not necessarily throwing parties and blowing up balloons, but if I were to blow up this balloon and place it in the water in the wetland, would it sink or would it float? I think it would float. And mallards are similar in that way because they actually have an air sac similar to a balloon that holds air and helps them to float on the water. That's why they are such great swimmers, and you see them floating really well all the time. They don't have any trouble at all floating with the help of this air sac in their body. Let's see, what other objects do we have? I have an egg carton here. And this egg carton doesn't have any eggs in it today, and it usually holds chicken eggs, but it reminds us that mallards also lay eggs, and their eggs look a little different than a chicken egg. They can be a little bit larger and be more of a grayish, greenish color. And when a female mallard lays eggs in the spring, they can lay between 1 to 14 eggs. That's quite a few. And they put them all in their nest and wait till they hatch. So this egg carton helps to remind us about how many eggs a mallard can lay in the springtime, between 1 and 14. What other objects do we have here? We're down to our last few. Oh, it looks like we have an insect here. So this little insect, how does this relate to a mallard? I mentioned before that mallards will eat plants. They're omnivores. So that means that they eat both plants and animals. And an insect is often something that they will eat here in the wetland, especially during the breeding season. And I've got a photo for you that I found recently. It's very interesting. And it is a photo of the underside of a mallard's mouth or bill. And you can see there those ridges along the edges of its bill. They kind of look like a comb or maybe teeth. Now, mallards don't have teeth like we do, but they do have these ridges on their bills, and it helps them to find food and chew up that food before they swallow it. It also helps them to filter out any rocks or things that they don't want to be eating when they stick their head underwater and try to take in any of the food down there. So those are called lamellae, and those are kind of like teeth. A little different, but that's what they're used for. It's to help them in eating their food, like an insect. All right, our last object here is a feather. And this feather is special because it is called a curl feather. And you can find them often on the tails of a mallard. So in our model here, you can kind of see a little bit these curl feathers on the back of our male mallard. You'll find them right about here on their tail. And the older a mallard is, the more curl feathers that they have. And a good friend of mine found these and collected them. And they're very beautiful. They have some of that purplish color to them, and they make this unique little curl. So anytime you see a mallard with more curl feathers, that means that that mallard is a little bit older. Mallard's feathers are also special because they keep them both warm and waterproof. And they do that by this gland that they have on their bodies, kind of near their tail, and it secretes an oil that they then spread out through all of their feathers that makes them waterproof. So it's kind of like we would put on a rain jacket, but instead the mallards, they spread out this oil to make them waterproof. I love watching the ducks when they do a little dip and they come back up out of the water, and all those water droplets just roll right off their back. And that's how they're able to stay warm and dry through their feathers. Amazing. Well, it looks like we've gone through all of our objects here. And they all, anytime you see an object like one of them that we've talked about today, I hope that it reminds you about our mallard friend and just how interesting and unique they are, and all of the ways that they're able to survive and thrive here in the wetland. Now, today we have a very special guest, and his name is Jared, and he is here to talk to us about some of the amphibian work that he does here at the Environmental Learning Center. So I am excited to welcome Jared and see what he has to talk about today. Hello, how are you?
How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm glad you could join us.
Thank you.
Do you want to introduce yourself
Yeah,
and tell them what you do
I'm
here?
Jared, I'm one of the coaches on the women's soccer team. So in the spring, myself and most of the players on the women's soccer team, we come to the Environmental Learning Center and we look for amphibian eggs. So amphibians are animals that live, excuse me, both in the water and on land. So we were able to find an egg mass that's very fresh.
Wow.
So you can see it's like a gelatin type material, very smooth, exactly like the jello that you would eat, but inside it, there's a bunch of eggs. So there's probably 25 to 30 salamander eggs. So this is a northwestern salamander egg mass.
Ooh.
But we'll also find red-legged frogs, chorus frogs, and bullfrog egg masses. So the thing that's cool about the egg masses is that when the adult salamander comes into the water and lays the egg mass, it's the female lays that big gelatin type mass. It's about the size of a baseball. It provides nutrients like a normal egg for anything else would, and it'll slowly break down. So there's components of the egg mass that will feed the young salamanders that are growing, and it'll start turning green and break down, and it'll get kind of grapey. So it'll go from that smooth round baseball shape to more of a group of grapes.
Hmm.
And you can tell that's the time when you want to look very closely at the egg mass, and you'll see that they look like very little salamanders. They'll have legs and tails.
Really?
It's very interesting. So this time of year for the next 2 months, along the edges of the Environmental Learning Center, we'll be looking for egg masses attached to sticks and grass and anything that's in here, even garbage sometimes they'll attach their egg masses to.
Wow.
So it's something that we do. We really like it. It helps us kind of evaluate the health of the ecosystem here at the Environmental Learning Center. So we're looking for the native species. They're the ones laying the eggs. And these are the adults that you see in the slide here. So the large salamander is a northwestern salamander. And that one is a very big, probably the biggest one that I've seen. That's probably a 10-year-old salamander.
Wow.
The smaller one is a long-toed salamander. They lay smaller egg masses that are more in a single line. And then the frogs, the red-legged frogs are very important. So they're on the decline, their populations overall. And then Pacific chorus frogs, which are the ones that you hear around your house that everybody sees. Everybody calls them tree frogs, but they're the ones that you most associate with noises that a frog makes. So that's what we're looking for here. Those are the native species that we have in this little patch of habitat here at the Environmental Learning Center. But the other thing that we do is when it gets a little bit warmer, we'll start looking for bullfrogs. So that warm temperatures will heat up the water. The bullfrogs come out. They've been laying low in the mud all winter, taking it easy, and they'll come out and they'll start eating anything that they can get their mouths around. So they'll eat ducklings, they'll eat birds, they'll eat all of these frogs that we're trying to
Oh.
protect as native species. They'll eat salamanders, they'll eat mice, all the insects, but we're trying to cut down on the population of bullfrogs here because they're an invasive species. They were brought here from the East Coast, and they wouldn't normally occur on the Environmental Learning Center property. But the salamanders and the smaller frogs that we have are native species that we're trying to protect, and we're trying to keep the bullfrog population at a minimum if we can.
Definitely, yeah. It's very important to support our native species and try to decrease our invasive species.
Absolutely.
What's the most surprising thing you've found at the ELC when doing those surveys? Have you found any really big egg masses or
Yes.
anything unique?
So a couple of things really stand out. So when the temperatures warm up just a little bit more than they are now, the salamanders will come out in huge numbers, and we'll see groups of 40 or 50 egg masses just in a little 30 or 40-yard stretch. So
Wow.
they'll use every piece of stick and grass that they can affix their eggs to. The other thing is that we've got some massive bullfrogs here. So
Hmm.
bullfrogs that you would think might be able to take down a full-grown mallard. They're so big, but
Oh my gosh.
some of these bullfrogs get massive, and they're really tricky to catch too. They're very fast and they're very vigilant.
I bet. Wow. Well, it sounds like a lot of great work that you're doing
Yeah,
here.
we do our best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming and telling
You're
us all
welcome.
about it. Yeah. I'm so glad that Jared could join us here today and tell us all about the wonderful work that he and his soccer players are doing here at the ELC every year. Now is the time, if you have any questions, to send them in. So let me know if you have any questions. I think we have some past ones as well that I can take a look at. All right, so we've got some questions here. Are there any predators to mallards at the wetland? Sam in Oregon City asks. So any predators to mallards? Well, let's think about that. So what's bigger than a mallard? Mallards are a good size, so there's not a lot of things that you see often here in the wetland that would be a predator to a mallard, but coyotes maybe could take down a mallard. And just like Jared mentioned before, even the bullfrogs are predators to the smaller ducklings. So you have to watch out for some of those larger creatures like a coyote or larger birds of prey, like maybe some hawks or eagles. Those could take down a mallard. Those are great questions, Sam. Thank you. Do we have any other ones from our classrooms? No. Well, I think that's all the time we have for today for our questions. And I really hope that you can join me next week, where we will be talking more about some of the wetland wildlife here at the ELC. And till next time, stay curious, get outside to explore, and I'll see you around the wetlands.